All right. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are really excited about this evening's event and the discussion between these two authors. Can you guys hear me all right? Yeah. My name is Bonnie. I'm the event host. And tonight, as you know, we will be listening to a discussion between authors Jessa Maxwell and Lynne Constantine. And we're all here because we like thrillers and we like mysteries and whodunits. But tonight's a little different. Tonight, it's not about whodunit, but how they do it. And we're really excited to listen to that. I'm just going to do a brief overview. You guys probably already know this, but Jessica Maxwell is the author of Golden Spoon and her latest novel, I Need You to Read This. She's also the author and illustrator of 5 picture books for children, and her comics and cartoons have been published in the New Yorker and the New York Times. So multi-talented, amazing. Her writing has also been published in Slate and Marie Claire and many others, and she lives in Rhode Island. Praise for the Golden Spoon, which is her last book, from NPR said, fans of the Great British Baking Show rejoice. So if you're big fans of baking show. Lynne Constantine, as you may know, is half of the dynamic duo Liv Constantine, who wrote The Last Mrs. Parrish and The Next Mrs. Parrish, both of which I can attest are just outstanding. I couldn't put them down. I blame many tired mornings on them. She and her sister are New York Times bestsellers, Wall Street Journal and USA Today international bestselling authors with over 2 million copies sold worldwide. They are Library Reads Hall of Fame authors, and their books have been translated into 29 languages. Wow. I'm going to let them tell you the rest. Thank you again for coming. They'll be having a discussion and then we'll go into Q&A. So keep those questions in your mind as you might hear the discussion. Afterwards, they will be signing books. And we do have books here for purchase if you didn't bring your own. All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to be here and to talk to Jessa about this amazing book. It's such a page turner, and I just want to read a quote from New York Times bestselling author Katie Hayes, who said, "A crackling pace and series of irresistible twists. It's impossible to know who to trust at the New York Herald, especially when one of your coworkers might be a murderer." So, yes. So I've always loved advice columns, and I used to read Dear Abby, as and all the different ones, and I always marvel at sort of how wise they are. And in your letter to readers, you say you were an advice columnist for a while. So I would love if we could talk a little bit about your experience doing that. And I know you also mentioned you got a super creepy letter, so I don't know how much you can say or not, but anyway, just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I got really interested in advice columns during one of my many breakup phases, in my 30s, and started reading. Did you ever read Ask Polly in your?
No.
It's Heather Toporowski, who's also a really amazing writer. Just like she writes essays and novels and things. And I don't know if any of you read it, but it's kind of a little less some, it's not about being proper. It's this kind of long-winded, artful, kind of essay-ish advice. So I always kind of envied her ability to do that and thought I might be good at it myself. So when I had an opportunity to, I did illustrations for Medium back when it was kind of a thing. It's not really anymore. And I just was like, maybe I want to try it on Medium. And it was for this really wonderful woman named Edith Zimmerman, she worked for The Hairpin. I don't know if any of you remember The Hairpin. It was a feminist blog back in the day, kind of like Jezebel-ish. And so she let me do it, long story short. And I started getting quite a few submissions pretty fast. I had this email address, anonymous email address. And they were just people asking all these really interesting questions. And then I also got one that said in very detailed language how they wanted to kill their roommate. And it was so disturbing. I was in this like thing where I was like, oh, these people, they're so interesting. You know, like it's the fun thing about it is you get all these like questions. And even though they're so different, like they all are related, like they're all based on the same themes, right? Like people are, even if it's like divorce or, you know, shopping addiction, someone had, or all these different things, but it's all like just people who want to feel belonging, who want to feel safety. And you know, found those themes like really interesting, except if you're trying to kill your roommate. I actually took it to the police.
I was gonna ask, okay,
Because-
did anything happen?
No, I mean, I like walked to my local precinct. I was living in Brooklyn at the time. And I was like, I got this letter to my anonymous, from no one, you know, from this anonymous person to my anonymous email address. And it says she wants, I just felt like I should like at least just like register it in case.
You want
someone's
right back
reading
and
it.
say, she'll do it.
I was like, oh, you should engage with this person. It was creepy, yeah.
That's so creepy.
Yeah.
So in the book, and we'll get more into some more questions, she has to answer every single letter. Was that the same thing
She
with
had
your?
to read.
Read
them.
every
Yeah,
word. You
yeah.
have to read every
I
single
did.
thing.
I mean, I didn't get as many letters submitted to me as Alex does in this book. She's kind of taken over this like a very famous established advice columnist position. And there's like just these rooms full of, because she has been murdered, the advice columnist. Right. There is like this big storeroom where they just been shoving all of these mountains of letters. So part of the whole thing with the advice columnist is that she always reads all of them. So
I thought that was overwhelming. So, you know, how, there's my papers. I'm just wondering, how soon after your experience writing did you decide to write a novel about it? Was it pretty soon, or you know, how did the idea come to you?
I mean, I had it floating around my head that it would be really fun, like kind of premise for a mystery for a while. And I just was trying, I actually wrote I forgot about this until just now. I wrote like almost an entire novel that I threw out about an advice column, like a different version of it.
Wow.
So I tried it out a few different ways, and then this is the one that stuck. Yeah.
Well, you did an amazing job. So I don't know what the other one was, but you've got such a diverse career. I mean, 5 children's books and comics. And so can you talk a little bit about, you know, the switch from that to writing novels, and, you know, are you still going to be doing some of that? Just a little bit about your career.
I still have an open contract at Harper actually for a picture book that I haven't finished. So maybe I will do another picture book. But
And you illustrate them too,
I
right?
illustrate them too. Yeah. I just like to pivot, you know, like I like to try different things and to express things in different ways. I love coming up with ideas, and I think I get a little bored doing the same thing over and over again. But I really like writing novels. And I think that's the thing I've always wanted to do, but it was kind of like the hardest thing to do. So I'd be like, okay, I want to write a novel, but I don't know if I can, so I'll draw cartoons, you know, or I'll do these other things. And so finally I'm actually doing the thing I think I'm probably supposed to.
Well, so that leads me to the next question in terms of process. How did your process differ from writing the children's books? And obviously it's a different thing, but you know, can you talk about how you come up with that and how you do this?
I think it's actually kind of similar. I was thinking that as I was finishing my 3rd novel, which took me a long time because I had a baby in the middle of it. And it's just like when I would draw things really sloppy, and I would just go over it and over it and over it until it looked like something that was real. And it really is the same exact process for me. I don't know, are you someone who writes in order? Like, do you write beginning to the end?
Sometimes, I mean, it differs. I mean, usually, but yeah, there are times like I've written, if it's a split narrative, then I've written later parts. Yes, you know, or actually the book I'm writing right now, I wrote her younger self first, even though it comes later. So
like if you feel like, because I'm kind of like, if I'm writing one day and I don't feel like, especially early on, because it's just this big open, you know, thing for you at the beginning, writing, I think at the first half of the book, right?
Yeah.
Is like, and then when you have to crack out and make sense of it, it's like,
oh,
yeah. But I feel like I will write, like, I'm like 1,000 words a day. Like, that's my like writing process. Like I have to write 1,000 words a day. And I usually just stop after I write 1,000 words.
really?
Because I feel like I've done my thing and I'll come back to it the next day and write 1,000 words, And I also like leaving it with something that I'm kind of getting going on something, right?
You have somewhere to go the next day.
Yeah, I do that.
Yeah.
Like leave yourself a little assignment.
I try, I do, but I don't have a 6-month-old at home, so like I can spend a little bit more time,
Yeah.
no, but I had a writing teacher who always said you should stop. Like in the middle of
Yeah,
something, so
yeah.
that you're not, when you go to the page the next day, you already know how to continue, which I think
Yeah.
is good advice.
It is because I mean, those days when you don't have that, it can be hard to get going.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's interesting and I love, your two novels are very different, and so, you're not being put in a strict genre, so you're already working on your third, you said, right? Well, we'll talk about what that is later, so we don't
Yeah.
jump ahead. So do you feel like in terms of you said you don't like to be bored, so you're just going to write what you want to write at the time, you're not sort of picking a lane?
I'm trying to, honestly, I didn't really realize like the Golden Spoon was characterized as a cozy, but I really didn't write it to be cozy. And I do think just because it was set in the world of like baking, it kind of got like maybe pigeonholed into that category because it has some pretty dark stuff in it actually. But this one is definitely a little bit darker, I would say. And
They just keep getting darker and darker.
yeah, well, the third one is darker, but then maybe I'm like, maybe I should like,
No, just embrace the darkness, right? Yeah. We always joke that our first thriller we didn't know it was a thriller either. We say it was a thriller without a murder, and then we quickly graduated to murder. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I like call mine cozy thrillers. I'm like, hot coining this name.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was very thrillery, and edge of your seat. I didn't find it had much of a cozy. You kind of knew she was in jeopardy, and who's doing what, and it was good. And I did love the Dear Constance element, which gave another point of view from our protagonist Alex, and Publishers Weekly loved it too. So I just was going to read what they said about it, which was a writer who goes by Lost Girl sends increasingly distressing letters to Dear Constance. Maxwell maintains scintillating tension throughout, and I think that's very true. So what did you hope readers would pay attention to in these letters?
I think, I mean, the letters to me were just a kind of like, they're meant just like a dual storyline. So the letters are told from the point of view of this younger girl who is going through this kind of coming of age and also like this new relationship. And that part is actually quite autobiographical for me, like that younger, not as dark as, but it is definitely like related to experiences I had when I was younger and unable to kind of, see the forest through the trees, like
discern the danger ahead
Yeah.
of this, seemingly nice guy who's
Yeah.
gonna ruin your life. Yes.
exactly. Yeah.
I think we've all,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
We should really call those people in our acknowledgements, don't you think?
They probably like it.
And you craft dialogue expertly well. So how do you craft such individuality in your characters in a conversation? How do you go about that?
I think I just spent a lot of time hanging out at bars. I love talking to people. I love talking to strangers. It's like my favorite thing in life is to talk to interesting characters and listen to their stories. So I think that to me that's like the funnest part to me is I have these two characters in this book that work at a diner.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And they're kind of like the kind of sidekicks, comic relief. One's like a retired police detective and one is the owner of the diner, and they banter a lot. And that was just super fun for me to write.
That was I could picture that so well. I could see her sitting at that counter and talking to them. It's like I wanted to be in that diner. It was really heartwarming, and kind of gave her another family as well, which I thought was really nice. Are any of the, well, I don't think this is probably true, but are any of the characters based on people you know? Just,
No,
Yeah.
no, not really. Just little elements here and there. People have like
Like
run
we all do,
into.
yeah.
Do you do that too?
Yeah. And so from the beginning, Alex, she's very strong, but so how would you describe her if to someone who didn't know her? What are some adjectives that you might use or a way that you would shape
I
her?
think she's cautious. She's got elements of OCD to her, based on like past trauma that she's lived through. And kind of not a super loud or ostentatious person, but very empathetic, which is what I find you need if you're going to write an advice column. You need the character to be able to kind of see through people, be super empathetic. But she makes mistakes just like
Yeah, no, I liked Alex a lot. So I was wondering a little bit on the business side, do you find a big difference in terms of like the publishing process, the touring returns of, children and novelists? What have you found surprising about switching to this?
Oh, this is so much better. I mean, when you write an illustrated children's books, it's wonderful, and interacting with children is wonderful, but you are doing story times. I was talking to a friend of mine who's going on a book tour, and she's a wonderful illustrator. She makes graphic novels, and she said, "Oh, I'm going to a bunch of schools," and I was like, "Oh, that's right. Like they send you to go to school. I forgot. Like you go to school. So this is like it's intense. If you're around it, like hundreds of children sometimes. I mean, it just scared me. Intense.
Your children's books are not thrillers, right?
Called Shark Detective. Which came out many years ago. Yeah. Fans in the audience. Yeah, so it's very different, like the business side of it. But publishing is also just publishing, right? Like, so there's that.
Yeah. And your comics, I'm very interested in that too. So like tell me about that, because you told me you did some of them, but I don't know like a whole lot about it.
I started doing single panel comics, and this is during a time when they still have like meetings at the New Yorker magazine, and I went really like quite a long time ago and brought them to Robert Mankoff, who was very famous at this time, and there were like almost no women doing it then either, which was really interesting. It was like Liana Fink and like Ross Chats, and it was just all men. And we stand in this line, there's this little room, people kind of like a little green room you go to, and then afterwards everyone would go get lunch at this off-Broadway restaurant, and it was such a fun experience and such a weird experience, and everyone would drink like this little cup of port at the end of the meal, and it was just really fun. It ended during the pandemic, and I wasn't drawing cartoons anymore by then, but there was a woman that took over, and she was great, and she published I think like 5 New Yorker cartoons.
Oh, so for so they're like jokes, or
they were like the single panel, like the classic New Yorker cartoons. And then I started doing these like longer form comics for the New York Times, and I did quite a few of those. Like I did the book review a bunch of times. They have like a back page. And
cool. Do you have them all framed in your house?
I have a few of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mother-in-law was always framing them as gifts.
Oh, that's sweet.
It was great. It was really nice. Yeah.
So now that you have this is your first child, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Are you gonna write a children's story for your baby? Yeah,
We'll see. I don't know. I mean, I think when I was writing kids' books, people would always say, I have kids, so I know how to write kids' books. And I actually don't know if I agree with that. Like, because then you're writing books as a parent to your kid, I was closer to being a kid before I had a kid. Almost, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like closer to being a kid. So I don't know, because then you're gonna be like, don't ever hurt yourself. So
yeah, I know. It definitely changes your worldview once you have a child in your life, right?
Move next door to mommy, like.
That could be like why you should always live where your mom.
I'm not gonna be objective, not right.
I can understand. Well, I'd like to open it up to questions now. Yes. Kelly.
Are you working on anything new besides, no, you,
Oh, me.
no, this was published in May, but you know.
Oh, yes, I just finished, and I'm struggling with before I hand it in, you know.
Are you about to turn it in?
I'm about to turn it in. I have 2 weeks,
Oh,
which is
wow.
2 weeks of torture of like, do I change anything? Do I add anything? So yes, another sort of psychological thriller with a woman in a perfect life who's like really is anything but perfect.
Can you give us a hint on like the title?
The working title, and I don't know, is Don't Open Your Eyes. So,
I
Look it up.
Titles are hard.
right? I know.
Yeah, they're so hard.
How did you come up with your title right away?
Oh, no, it was like the very end and, it was like a friend of mine was just, we were just like walking around and just like, just ripping titles. We had to come up with something at the last minute. Yeah.
And they don't always, the publishers, I mean, they sometimes change and you come up with one that you think is great and they're like, no. And then other times it kind of falls on your shoulders, right?
Yeah.
What about the cover design, which is so cool? Like, did they hit that out of the park right
No,
away? or not?
the first book was great, like the title was always the title, the cover was really fast, but this was like a torturous cover. Like there was a couple that were, you know, one like that, actually that new Alex Inlay book.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, basically it was that cover.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I
it's
was
one,
like,
same
yeah,
cover,
the
someone else, yeah.
same covers,
Yeah.
like how they're really great, thriller writer. So, and I can't use that, and then there were a bunch of like different ones, and this came out, like it took a long time. But I think he did a great job, it's beautiful.
I
cover.
love it.
It's
There's
really
a-
textural.
Did you, I mean, I would imagine because of your artistic ability, then you probably were able to put some input.
Kind of, yeah, I mean, the art director is like a genius who did this, and he is like, but he's also like, he knows what it's, you know, like, I don't think I want to like step into that, you know, like he knows his stuff.
I know, you have to be careful. You don't
Yeah.
want to make the publisher mad, but on the, by the same token, you know, you do have to let them know when,
Yeah,
when
yeah.
it's right. I mean,
Yeah, it's a tricky dance.
it is. Well, I think it's a great cover. Yeah.
Yeah, and I hope people like it.
Just a comment, the cover and the title is what grabbed me.
Oh,
good.
wow, that's nice.
I said, I have to pick this up and see why I have to read it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of an aggressive.
You hit the mark.
Right.
Good, good. I love it.
And then the little blood on the.
Yeah, I love the whole.
Yeah, yeah.
Your thumb hits exactly where the blood is.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just noticed that today. I was like, oh, wait. there's
Like,
more.
did I? Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw the super creepy Washington Post.
Yeah, that's fun.
Very
isn't it?
good, yeah.
Going back to the Golden Spoon, did you watch a lot of British Bake Off? Like, what inspired you?
Yeah, I always loved British Bake Off. I loved the different characters and how they related to each other. I think the other was always so sweet, and the way they did that show is so great. How getting in foster so much affection, you know, deep down. And there's always people where you're like,
It's so poison.
yeah.
I have a question. How difficult was it after such, you had an amazing debut book with amazing reviews? Was it harder to start your second one?
Oh my
Your
god.
sophomore, yeah.
Did you have trouble with the second one?
Sophomore
Oh,
slump
it's
is
so
real.
hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard. I wrote like basically 2 whole books that I got rid of in the interim, and it was just so hard. I think it's so common with the second book, like from everyone I talked to. Yeah. And you're just, yeah.
It's a lot of pressure, right?
Just
Yeah.
a lot of pressure, and you don't want me to do it again.
Well, and I think, you know, I don't know if people said this to you, but probably with the success of yours, you know, you're thrilled that your first book is doing so well, but then you have people go, well, you know, it's not so great when your first book does that well, because you're like, thanks for nothing, you know, it's like, right?
It's just like a lot of.
It's a lot of pressure, yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, you also hope that like the first book doing well be enough to.
Yes. Your first book's written in multiple points of view, right? Yeah. How do you feel about, which one do you like better, writing multiple points of view or writing a single perspective?
I mean, I loved writing this book, but because it was the second book, I think it was so hard. That first one was like kind of magical for me to write. Like I had such a fun time writing those different points of view. And I think because it was the British baking show, basically, it was like so fun to like think about and be in that environment. Like I just loved it. I don't know who's read the book, but there's a character named Virginia in it. And I just like loved writing him. Like every time I could go back to him and like write him, I just feel like so happy. That one was really fun to write. Plus, I think your first book, you're just free. Like there's no contract, there's nothing. You've kind of got like the wide open space in front of you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And then they tell you, your next book has to be better, right?
This is a business.
Yeah.
How do you come up with the names?
For like the characters? I don't know really. I mean, this one has kind of basic names. I don't like to have a name really be a big, I don't like make really like symbolic names or anything. I like kind of having names you can project your own stuff onto. So nothing too fussy, really. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how I do really.
You don't look at like maybe do Google baby names or anything like that.
Only for last names.
Okay.
When I need a last
Yeah,
name.
okay.
Yeah, because sometimes you're just like, what's like a, so because sometimes I'll make a last name and I'm like, I think that I just use someone's last name. You know, like,
We found out in our newest book that one of the Texas autumn people is like the Texas governor. We have no idea. Sorry.
I apparently in my first book, there's like, I think her last name is Severson, Hannah. And there is another series that takes place in Minnesota where she's from, and this character is like, and I've never heard of it. Like I've never heard of the book. And it was like the same character name from like, and I have her from like, there's a lot of, I'm from the Midwest and like, there's a lot of like Eden names in Minnesota, like, and so I gave her like an Eden name. So this other book, maybe it was, I can't remember. There's some book that's beloved that has, and they thought, and it's also got some baking element to it. So everyone thought I was like paint homage to this, which was, that's fine as long as they don't think I'm ripping for it.
You didn't hear from me. You didn't get a letter from the author's lawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is weird. You don't know. I mean, and there's probably is always somebody with that name, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's just inevitable. Yes.
So Lynne, I am currently reading the next business parish, and I'm almost done, but how do you come up with, I don't want to give it away for nobody that's read it, but I can't put it down. How do you
Thank you.
come up with all those? I don't want to give it away, but.
I'll do this, I'll cover my ear.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, it helps because my sister and I talk about a lot of it, so it makes it, you know, it's iterative to a point. So you'll start here and you'll go, well, what if we did this and what if we did that? And it makes it a lot easier. So, yeah, so that, and the character, we've gotten to know the characters so well at this point, and we know all of the vile things that they're capable of. So,
One of you kind of like the person that's like, that's too much. Or is like, both of you are just like, yes, and.
yeah, we're probably, no, we like,
Yeah.
press the gas.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
pretty much,
No,
yeah.
'cause that book is such a
Yeah.
like, it's just like each chapter is just like you just, it's such that those like short, punchy,
Thank you.
amazing, like
The only time we've had it too much, there have been, we don't read, there's not a lot of
Yeah.
sex in our books, but you know, there's a little bit. And there have been times in the past where one of us will write a scene and the other one's like, you need to feel that back. A little- That's about it, yeah.
Are you already thinking about your next book? Do you have?
Yeah, let's tell us about that. You said.
No,
any
so
thoughts?
I just turned it in yesterday.
Congratulations. Oh, my God.
I kind of wish I had 2 more weeks, but honestly, it's just like.
You're lucky that you
messed
didn't
around.
actually.
Yeah, probably
Yeah,
lucky I just
yeah.
like my book. And takes place, I live in Rhode Island, a small island. It's kind of in a similar, it's like a kind of more remote East Coast island. So, it's 3 POVs. Someone who's always watching from this little island offshore. Missing girls.
Oh, it's good. Do you have a title yet?
I don't really. I mean, there's a couple options, but nothing like.
How long did that take you?
That one, it took me almost, well, it took me, I started it in October.
Okay,
Something, yeah, it's not super long, but the other two took me about 4 months each. And I think I'm much better when I just plow through. Because like this, I had like the baby, I was pregnant.
Yeah, I was gonna say, oh my gosh, that's amazing.
But I just think like I had too much time. It's also like when I wasn't, when I was not without baby, I was able to like reread things all the time. And now I have to just like drop in, and it's a lot harder because you just like, I'll be like, I have this many hours, like I have to just write right now. And so I can't I don't give myself the time to kind of reread things. And I think that actually a little bit slowed me down because I was so desperate to just write that I didn't. So then sometimes you spend a day writing something and then later you think that doesn't make any sense. Should be written down.
I think it happens either way. I think it happens in an event, yeah, it's not easy.
One more question. What are things that you are currently reading, or is there something recently read that you really loved? Like both of you.
Sandra Boynton.
Yes.
Oh,
You need to do barnyard thing.
Oh yeah, we love there's a book called Wonderful Babies that my son was obsessed with. And it's not a very good book, but it's very the pictures are very, and he likes the word baby. So we've just been reading like lots of board books.
All that. I didn't read a lot of advanced reader like thrillers. I just read a good one. Well, first, I'm not gonna think of it's not out yet. It's something with lies. I don't know. It was very good, but that's one. And then I just finished All the Colors of the Dark, which I enjoyed, but it was very long, little long. But right, yeah. So I wanted to get to the end and figure out what was going on. Impatient.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I've gotten a few. Also, there's The Real Dead Housewives of New Jersey is a book that I'm currently reading at ARC. Yeah, and that's coming out. I think that's coming out this fall.
Yeah, I just got.
Oh no, it must be in the spring.
Oh, I just got one. All the Mothers Hate Me. So that sounds great. I don't know. Yeah, right. Should be, right. Well, what are you doing? Are you binge watching anything right now?
I wish.
No, I mean, we're fancy,
everything.
got babies,
I
so,
know,
yeah.
no, I'm interested in the new Presumed Innocent, but
Very good.
I've heard mixed
Yeah.
reviews,
I thought it was good.
Yeah.
We
I
went.
like any short, mini,
Yeah, that doesn't have another cliffhanger and then you have to wait a year for the next
No.
season, right? That's coming out,
I
you
know,
know.
I'm kind of bereft since the session ended, honestly.
What's that?
Succession?
Oh, I thought you said the session.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I've never heard of the session, no. Succession, yeah. I'm looking at Wendy or another
my
writer.
favorite
and
show.
she
Yeah,
like,
it was so artful.
Favorite show.
Yeah, I could not get into it. It was a little too crazy for me.
Yes.
How do you think motherhood will shift your subject matter as you move forward writing novels in the future? Will it change your perspective or how you view the world or how you write?
Oh, I'm sure it will.
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, I do think there have been there's that Greenwich Park book. Did you ever read that one? That was a big thriller that had children in it. For a long time I was trying to get pregnant and getting an IVF, so I didn't want to read anything with children in it because it was very triggering to me. So now it will be nice to be able to read that stuff. But I don't think there's kind of it's scary. I think it should be it can be kind of boring having kids in books too. So it's there's a mixture. Yeah, and you don't want to yeah.
I mean, I think you might find, I did the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, I know, so in going through IVF, afterwards, then you can watch
Yeah.
stuff about it.
Yeah,
You're right, you
yeah.
couldn't watch it at the time, and I think also, for me, when my children were little, I couldn't read a book about kids their age
Oh,
that
I
were
know.
in jeopardy
No,
or that,
not
you
too
know,
much, yeah.
right, but now that they're adults, okay, now I can read something about it. It's
Yeah.
when you don't want to read it when you can relate to
Oh,
closely.
too
It's-
much.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that.
I haven't, we'll see,
missing.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be amazing.
I haven't read that one, and I guess if they're younger, I can read
Yeah.
it, but yeah, like
Chapter,
again.
yeah.
Although I do watch that Stalker show all the time on
Oh, yeah.
Hulu. I don't know. Stalk, someone is watching. Yeah. Too much crime.
I think we have time for one more question. Anybody? Oh, there we go.
I'm kind of interested in the process that, how do you write with your sister? Like, when you write a certain a whole chapter, do you write parts? Do you just, what do you give more ideas and the other one does the writing?
I'm super curious too.
Well, if she were here, I always like to tease her, and then I always say, well, I write everything and she writes all the sex scenes, and then she goes, none of them. So we share everything pretty much. I mean, you know, we scope it out, we scope the story out over a period of weeks or months sometimes. And then once the writing begins, we speak every morning on Zoom, because she's in Annapolis and I'm here in Connecticut. And we decide, you know, whoever feels like writing whatever, like I'll write this scene, you write that scene, and we email each other. And then oftentimes we'll complete, like she'll send me half a chapter and I'll finish it, and vice versa. Or I might leave like the description of the room with caps, could you fill this in? And then that's how it goes until we finish. And then once it's finished, we edit, and everything in track changes. So really, by the time the book comes out, we've gone through it 2 or 3 times, and it could be one sentence that's half of my mind and half of Valerie's. So it really is very, yeah.
But do you have two different writing styles though, or do
I
you?
think we're similar. I mean, she's a little more verbose, I think. In a good way, though. No, I mean, I'm kind of like more into the action and the dialogue, and she's more into the descriptive. But I do think that our styles are similar, and you know, and being sisters, and we have very similar senses of humor. So I think it melds well. Most people say they can't tell that it's written by 2 people, which is what we hope for. Yeah.
Yeah, you
That's-
can't.
Well, I want to thank you both for being here. It was
Thank you.
absolutely fascinating.